Welcome to the L-5 podcast. We are back with another episode. Tonight, we decided to do a TV series. And since it's October and Halloween season, we decided to do the whole month of scary, spooky TV shows. So this week's pick was from Stacy. So we decided to watch the TV series Evil.
So this is a haunting?
It's an infestation.
What's that?
A haunting.
You know I'm just doing this to pay off my student loans, right?
Evil premieres CBS Thursday, September 26th.
So Stacy, would you like to talk about the TV series Evil and give us a brief synopsis of what Evil's all about?
Yes, because October is my favorite month, and not because it's somebody's marvelous month, but because of Halloween. It's the start of the holiday season for me. So it's like October, we got Halloween, and you sprint to Thanksgiving, and we are then at Christmas, and then we are depressed in January because we got to put all our stuff away, and the holidays are over. But I just like this time of year. And Evil. Evil's a TV show. It's on CBS. Well, it started on CBS, but I believe now it's on Paramount. And it's 2 seasons, but we're going to go really just review the first 2 episodes. And a brief synopsis is that there's 3 main characters, and they work as a kind of a division of the Catholic Church. And what they're supposed to do is they review cases, and they determine if it's an exorcist and should an exorcist is the patient. If the person's possessed, should there be an exorcist performed, or is it a miraculous thing has happened? Is it a true miracle, or is it something else? So is it actually something spiritually going on, or is it something mentally going on with that person, or something physical in the environment? And you have 3 main characters, which we all meet in that first episode, which I believe is called Genesis. Mm-hmm. The first main character I consider is the priest in training, David Acosta, who's played by Colter, I think.
Yeah.
And he played in Luke Cage, and he's one fine priest. Oh, I'm sorry, priest in training. Keep that in mind. He's a priest in training. And he's coming from the spiritual aspect. So he's there.
Does that mean that he's not off limits?
Yeah.
Is he off limits if he becomes a?
It's like
is he
training? I mean, we you don't mind as much lusting after the priest in training. But,
and it's Roman Catholic, so when he is a priest, he is supposed to be off limits.
He is supposed to be off limits. He's supposed to be.
Stacy, he ain't.
Right now, he's not. He is just awesome in the whole show. But anyway. He's coming from the, spiritual religious aspect. And now he's been working with one person, his name is Ben, but I think his real name is Aasif, I think. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Mm-hmm. But Ben, he's the other character. And they've been working together for some time. When you see the episode, you'll notice that they have been working together for some time, but then a new person is coming in, Kristen. Now she's the forensic psychologist. So she actually used to work for the court system and evaluate people, see if they are, mentally capable, or if they're being charged with something, or they are considered adult or child. She's looking at their mental aspect. So you have David, who's coming from the Catholic Church, spiritual aspect. You have Kristen. She says in there she's an atheist, I believe. But I think we find out that she was maybe raised Catholic or in her youth, but she's actually an atheist. So you come in from her, and she believes, in science and the science of the mind. Then we have Ben, and it's cast is pretty diverse because if you remember Luke Cage, the priest in training, David is Black, Chris is white, and then you have Ben, and he's played by I said Aasif. I'm not sure. I know I'm probably saying it wrong. But he's Muslim, and in the in the TV show, it doesn't say that he's an atheist, but we know he's non-practicing. And he's coming from it from the physical angle. And what I mean by the physical angle is not physical, like your body, is more mechanical. So he's looking at it from, oh, the person is having seizures because they're using candles from the early 1900s and lead was in those kind of wicks. And that's what's causing it. So he looks at it from that kind of perspective. So they're all coming from 3 different angles. And when they're assigned a task, they go to it from each one of the angles to try to prove or disprove. Should it be an exorcism involved? Should this person get some sort of mental health? Should we do something in this environment and that's what's causing the problem. And our first episode, we meet also Leland. And if you continue watching, Leland is in there a lot. And he's our evil person. So if you have you have the good team, it would be Kristen, David, and Ben. And even though they're, again, not all Christian or believers, they are on the side of good. And it just really, to me, shows that it's not a black and white, like you think, oh, Christians are good, and, or whatever. It's goodness and morality. That doesn't really have to be anything involved when it comes to religion. Mm-hmm. And then we have Leland, who is basically evil, is doing evil things, and who we see tries to derail and put a poor sweet boy in jail. So we do, spoiler alert on that. So we see that he's trying to do on the side of evil. And in the first 2 episodes, again, episode 1, we meet a serial killer, and they're trying to disprove if he's actually been possessed. Because if he has been possessed, or he thinks he's been possessed, that's different than if he is sane and we already know he's done it. What should really be done? And that's the first episode. The second episode is more of the miracle kind, where we actually see a girl who was deemed dead, and she miraculously comes back to life. And we see both those episodes. And for me, not trying to go into too much detail on the episode, I want to hear what y'all have to say. But one of the reasons I like the show is there is a storyline. Once you keep watching it, there is like a storyline going through it, a theme or a storyline kind of going through it. But you can see each and every episode and not really have to know much about that storyline to appreciate the episode. Now, some of you I asked if you could watch the 3rd episode, because that one is the one that made it really creepy for me. And what I see a lot of in this season, and really both seasons, is they bring things that are in this world and see that, I'm not saying they're evil, but how they can potentially be corrupted and corrupt the people around them. So, and I know you don't really see it so much in these first 2 episodes as much, but you see it more in the 3rd episode, for those who see it, because they actually bring some of our electronic devices into that episode. But if you continue seeing the series, it's not just that, it just brings things in. And that's what makes it really creepy to me, and spooky and scary. It's because it's not like, oh, I got this ancient box from the so-and-so, and that's what's causing it. It's things that we interact with, potentially, just everyday things. It's not something that you dug up from somewhere. And I'm not saying that there's not episodes like that, but it's a lot of it to see the stuff that we use actively now. And also, one of the things I really like about this particular this show is that for a long time, you really don't know, is this evil because of some devil, demon, and minions kind of a thing, or is it just evil because people are evil, and it can be evil, neglectful, and just hurt other people? And so especially at the beginning of it, you're not sure. It's like, okay, they proved it, that it was caused by this, but then something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, was that, maybe that was something. And I think it depends on where you lean, I guess, on your, convictions and what your belief system, as you go through, on whether you believe it's more something that's more spiritual in nature versus something that's going on in the world. And I really enjoyed it. I'm glad y'all actually had a chance to see it. Hopefully I have some people to watch it because they are finishing up. Season 2 is finishing up, and I believe it's been renewed for season 3. So please watch out for it. And I'm gonna pass it on to Brian because I think he's the first one who watched it before I suggested it. So Brian.
Yeah, so I think Stacy, you talked about it one night, and so I went ahead and watched episode 1 several weeks ago, and then before we decided to cover it, and so I did watch through the 3rd episode and stop, and I really do like picking apart supernatural stories because one of the things I like about October and spooky horror mystery kinds of things. I mean, I really like that genre too. But what's cool about this is that they're actually studying it. They're in it and they're studying it too. So that kind of brings out kind of what we're doing. We're picking apart a horror movie and analyzing it and trying to figure out what's going on in them. And they're doing that within this story. And a lot of things you can't explain. But I think you're right on there about the evil in the world. It's like, yeah, I mean, we're seeing it every day coming right out of people. I mean, it is absolutely people who are doing these horrible things, and the escapism of a horror movie or a show or whatever is that you can kind of explain it away. It's just I'm hearing voices coming from my head, or these devices or something, and you can kind of explain it, but we don't have an explanation for a lot of the real life horrors that we see or hear about. But the first episode introduces this character and these night terrors, and that I think is what you might be alluding to as one of the overarching storylines, because he appears, I think, in all 3 episodes. There's some closure, a little bit of closure, assumed closure maybe, in the 3rd episode of it that is, I think, kind of fun. But this guy, this demon that she's seeing is horrible. He's so terrifying, and the aspect of night terrors, of being totally paralyzed and not being able to move and only being able to open your eyes in it, just sounds horrific. And if anyone's ever experienced that, I'm sorry, but I have experienced being frozen in a dream and not being able to talk. And I remember feeling desperately trying to be able to talk for something, but I wouldn't describe it as a night terror, but I identify with that. And I don't know how big of a shared experience that is for people, but that is dead on just a horrifying thing. And I think for television was pretty powerful, to be able to express that, without blood. Sorry, Jeremy. But they got the big knife and everything in there too. So that was that. So there's some elements that are there, but in the second episode where the teenager comes back to life and they're analyzing video and looking at the stuff frame by frame and trying to figure those things out, and there's always a lot of cliches in movies and TV shows where they're analyzing video and zoom in, analyze, enhance, and all that stuff, and they didn't do any of that, and I thought that was great. So it just felt really, really better done than those kinds of things usually are. When somebody was asking somebody who should be an expert, well, how did this get on there? How did this happen? It's like they had some explanations, but they were pretty much like, I don't know. um, and I thought that was pretty refreshing. So I'm really enjoying the series. So um, I have I have every expectation that I'll keep watching it too. Yeah, yeah. But what did Jeremy think? Because it sounds like you went whole hog.
Yes. Uh, Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I definitely enjoy this series, and like especially working in intersections of psychology, which is a soft science. It's not a hard science. Hard, I think that's the thing people forget. Hard science is hard fact. You can do scientific methods to say it over and over, and you can do it over again. Psychologically, people do experiments to sort of disprove stuff. That's what psychology is like. You study human behavior, but stuff is not hard facts. And so I like that this series shows you that you got a psychologist up in here that really it has a stance on stuff, but you have different people in the religious aspects who are like, wait a minute, like that's, that's not really, that's your truth, but that's not the full absolute truth all the time. And while that's your reality, it might not be the same for everybody else. So like from an academic standpoint, this is stuff like that, like I really like. I enjoy it, kind of intersects with my work and stuff. So I really like that. I really like that the Stacy mentioned the race aspects in her overview at the beginning, how there's, you got a Black man, a white woman. Like I like the racial aspects too, because what I expected when I saw the cover, when she said to watch this, I was like, oh, it's a bunch of white people talking about ghosts and some demons and the good old cliches of what I thought I was going to get. But realistically, I got a lot of intersections. I think Michael Colter is great. He's one of my favorite actors, so one of my favorite new actors particularly, so I was excited to see him in it. And he doesn't play these kind of tropes and stereotypes that I thought he was going to play. Like he's an intelligent brother and comes with his own story, so I really like that. But there's a lot of racial undertones that hopefully later on they'll talk about. But again, first 2 episodes, that was our assignment. So I expected to see a lot of that race stuff come into play, which there was some of it. I also like the demon that was in the first episode and the, coming when she was asleep and like Brian mentioned, the night terrors. I think that's very real for a lot of people. It reminds me of X-Files. When I saw that, I was like, dag, like I used to watch X-Files when I was small. I was like, oh, like that's bringing me back. There were, I don't know who's watching this, but several X-Files episodes went into kind of what night terror is for people. And the demons were represented in different ways. And that demon that played out on Evil really reminded me of that one. So that was a little nostalgic too. I remember that episode very vividly. And so, yeah, I really like this. I definitely gave it a 4. Both episodes through and through were great. Loved there was some humor in there that I liked. It wasn't dry. The episodes weren't terribly long, like I think 40 minutes or something like that, which is, I think, perfect. Yeah, it was great. You had the ads here or there, but it didn't take away from anything. I really enjoyed this. So I'm gonna kick it to Corey.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yes, I will agree with everything that everybody was saying. I wrote some notes, so I'm just kind of reading from my notes a little bit. But I said that I'm really loving this show. It's interesting because when I first started watching that, the first episode in the beginning, they start talking about and emphasizing possession. And I don't like possession. I don't like any type of movie or TV show that deals with that, Exorcist, stuff like that. Nah, that's not for me. So when they started getting into that, I was like, I don't think that I'm going to like this show. And really what carried it over for me was that it wasn't just talking about possession. And it wasn't really a scary, I would say, type of show that you would see anywhere else. It was more like a mystery. It's more like a mystery thriller and really started bringing into that CSI type mentality. And, I've seen a couple episodes of CSI. I'm not really a huge fan of CSI, but I know the structure of it. And so I like that this was built in a structure like that. And so I was really on board. I really enjoyed the actors. I really like Michael Colter in Luke Cage, and I like Katja Hubers. I like her a lot, and I really like Leland. But I like the fact that this show. At first, I didn't even know what channel it was originally. Like I was watching this without seeing any of the trailers, without seeing any of the posters, any synopsis or anything. I didn't really know what the show was about. And just watching it, I was like, okay, it seems like it's a scary type of show. Is it R-rated or is it going to be more PG-13? And then I realized it was more PG-13. I was like, oh, this is actually a network TV show. So they're not going to go but so far anyways. And I like that for me only because I'm not really big on the R-rated horror, in your face, blah, blah, gore, smash, blah, blah, all the time. I can't take with so much of that. So I was like, okay, this is a little bit more tame for me. So this works for me. And it also is episodic. You know, I like TV shows that are what I call Freak of the Week, of where every single week it's a new case or it's a new, in this case, a new supernatural, a new phenomenon that they're having to deal with. And I like that. So you have these episodic pieces that you can watch, like Stacey's saying, and not really have to know the big arching storyline that's going through. But for the people who have been constantly watching it, you see that big arching storyline, right? So you get a little bit of both. I like the comedy bits that were in there, like with the whole daughters thing. The daughter's talking about she had a nightmare that her teacher was punching her in the face. I thought that was hilarious. Or whatever. So I really like the little comedy bits like that. You know, they keep it a little lighthearted in certain situations. What I am not a fan of is I'm not a fan of the relationship between Katja and Kristen Bouchard and David Acosta. Like, come on, we don't always have to have a relationship in every single show or TV show between the two main characters or main leads. It's not necessary. And you start to throw that in after like the first or second episode. I understand attraction is there. I understand that happens, but we don't need it. You know, it's not necessary. They can build a working relationship where they don't have to necessarily be in a love type relationship. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not saying that that's what happens, but I'm just saying the undertones are there, and I'm like, it's not really needed. Okay, so that just kind of bothers me. It's a small thing. It's not anything that deterred away from me enjoying this show. But there were also little things about this show that I enjoyed of where, like, and I know this is probably going to not really deep, but looking into places that's not really there. But like, I think it was Stacey or Brian that said it, was like, with evil, it's not necessarily a thing, right? It's not a box. It's not a creature or anything like that. It could be just someone who's bad, who's, you know, doing horrible things. That person is evil. If you look at the opening credits are black and white. So the background is white and the text is black. So it's telling you everything that you see is black. You know, it's either black. You know, they're looking at it like it's either black or white. It's not always the same. You know, whatever, that kind of thing. And then you see the rosary beads go into the liquid, and I'm like, okay, this has a religious undertone to it, and, you know, religious things that goes along with it. So I was just enjoying it. I thought it was very easy to binge. You know, they were only like 30 or 40 minutes, and I felt myself. I know I'm hooked when I'm not looking at my phone while I'm watching it. And not one time in any of the episodes did I actually pick up my phone to watch it because I was just engrossed. I feel like a lot of the things that they were trying to explain and solve was very simplistic, and it wasn't overly convoluted. And that helped me as well. That helps get me on board. I don't like things that are really deep rooted and convoluted and all that kind of stuff whenever they're trying to solve an issue at all. You know, I watched the first 3 episodes. I actually watched the 4th episode today, halfway. I'm going to finish it, and I signed up for the 7-day trial for Paramount Plus. And after the second episode, like halfway through the second episode, I was like, you know what? I'm keeping my Paramount Plus because they at least have 2 seasons and this show is fairly new. So they're going to keep this show going. I'm going to finish the whole series. Like, I got to watch this because it was really enjoyable to me. I was thinking about recommending it to my dad, but I don't know because he's good with everything else except for probably the horror aspect. But I don't know. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. I'll give my final review once Dana finishes talking about what she thinks about the show Evil.
Okay. Thanks, Corey. Okay, so a couple things. I actually took a lot of notes, but they may be kind of all over the place. So just you've been warned. So the first thing I wrote here is, damn, that's a lot of kids. So I think one of the things that I heard mentioned in here is how a lot of people felt like there was some novelty that maybe they weren't using the same tropes that we see all the time. And I kind of felt like that was it. I know this is something small, but when's the last time you saw, what basically at this point could be like a single mother? I know she has a husband, but he's away, but 4 daughters. I felt like, wow, normally you get a child or you get a boy and a girl child, but 4 girls. I was like, I expect that to come into play at some point during these seasons, because honestly, that's not something that I felt was common. So there has to be a reason in my mind that they gave them 4 daughters. And I'm interested to see what that is. I also said that I feel like 30-minute episodes seems too short. I'm not a fan of 30-minute episodes unless they're comedies, because I don't think they are going to be long enough to give me enough information, enough background, character development, all that stuff. Even if they're episodic, like a CSI, but they always have that backstory, running just like CSI. And I just can't, in my mind, and this is what I'm saying, just as I'm starting watching the first part of this, I just felt like 30 minutes. I was like, there's no way this is going to be too short. And one thing I should go back and say is I need to look this up, but I saw this. I didn't watch it, but I saw I don't know if I saw like a smidge of it or what, but I thought for some reason it was on Netflix and it came up. And I don't know, maybe season 1 at some point was on Netflix and then went away. I don't know, but I had seen this come up before as a recommendation somewhere. And I looked at it and I wasn't interested in it. So I never watched it, but I had seen it before. So then I had a couple questions. So I wanted to know how much the new side job working with the to-be priest and I don't even know what the other guy's job title or role is, compared to her working as a contractor for the state or federal government, whatever she was working. I just felt like it was, to me, she went, here she is, she's a mom, she has 4 kids, she's struggling, can't pay her student loans. And she just accepts this little side job, which I felt like there's no way it paid that much because, and I could be wrong, but my understanding or what I felt like at this point was that people either asked the church or maybe they paid them separately to come and investigate issues where they thought they were having some type of, evil ghostly phenomenon going on in their house. I just didn't feel like that was going to pay big money. So I just thought that was kind of a weird way to get her into that job. I thought the demon, I thought the character was silly. I felt like the minute he started talking and peeing in the corner, he totally lost me. That's not scary. Like somebody who's evil. And I felt like he made a little joke. He was being stupid. Like I felt like he lost his scariness for me because he opened his mouth. And I could no longer take him seriously because, you don't want the bad guy telling jokes unless he's like a Freddy Krueger who can like really pull it off. Otherwise, it just, to me, doesn't work. So I thought that was odd. As I said, she just happens to start getting visits from George now. So again, all of a sudden, this demon character starts visiting her, just happens to be now that she's joined up with this priest and the other guy. Like, I was like, what's the timing of this? And now, and especially since we found out that who she's seeing is actually somebody that I guess they had seen in a movie that she watched with her daughters. Why all of a sudden is he showing up now? Then everybody said he had red eyes. And I was like, I thought they were green. And I was like, am I going to have to go back and look at this? His eyes are green. They have red around the outside. They're not red. So I was like, why we keep saying that? The love interest crap. Okay. So I'm totally in the same place with Corey with this. I cannot stand this. When we have these types of shows, we always got to throw some love interest in it. These people don't know each other well enough for this. The best type of love interest are those that build up over time and you can feel it. And I don't get any of that. They just met each other 2 seconds ago. And now she's dreaming or thinking about ripping his clothes off and him vice versa. I don't know. And then talking about tropes, I had a problem because why is it, to me, a Black man and a white woman is like, that is not a game changer. Like, I did not feel any diversity in that whatsoever. I felt like that's the same stuff we see, that we're bombarded with it, unless it's a Shonda Rhimes production over and over again. And I'm like, honestly, I felt like the other character, who I wish I knew what his job title was, but why couldn't it be him and the woman character that were the love interest of anybody? Why again have to be the Black man, white woman? Tired of that. Let's see. Oh, and then the first episode where they were like, oh, let's go check the wife's computer. Do y'all know this guy was on death row or whatever he was in this whole court case? Y'all do realize they would have been to check the wife's computer. They would not have gone, oh, let's get his computer and stuff and not look at any of hers, because I'm sure he didn't use her computer. Like, I just whack. The black and white opening, funny that you mentioned that, Corey. All I saw from that, I was like, what's up with the Westworld opening again? Now, I know y'all are like, damn, Dana. But there is something I did
girl. Go in, sis.
There's something I did like about the show. So what I actually liked about the show is I think a lot of times we get that, things happen and we don't always know the reason why. That's so easy to write, right? Because I don't have to write the ending. I don't have to tell you why it happened. I actually like that they are actually telling us, hey, that noise you thought you heard, this is what it actually was. Or that thing you thought you saw, this is what it actually was. I actually find that very novel for a show versus giving me just some supernatural happens that just happen and we can't explain them. We get that every day in life. Start explaining stuff. I kind of feel like this has more of a house kind of thing to it. Like, we don't know what's going on. By the end of it, we figured it out and kind of wrapped it up. Or Scooby-Doo thing. Oh, it's a ghost. No, it's actually Mr. Johnson, in a mask.
Who is that? This is the end of the mystery. Well, if it isn't our old friend Bluestone the Brave.
I like that because I don't think we often get that with these types of shows, because I feel like a lot of times the writers don't know why it happened. They're just writing that it did. So I love that the show is actually telling us or figuring it out. And I realize it sounds like that may not be how it is for every episode, but the first two, they did do that. So I actually like that. Another thing that kind of bothered me, and I know the guy is like new into his priesthood. I think he's in year 2 or 4. But when the mom, I guess Kristen's character, is talking about her little girl and basically why bad things happen to people, he gives her no maybe reason, no nothing. He's like, I can't tell you. Like, after 2 years, you still have no kind of words that you can help kind of guide her to anything. I don't feel like he's very priestly. I know he hasn't finished his education, but I feel like the fact that he even wanted to be a priest, he probably sure they had an answer prepared, because this is a very common question people have, right? Why do bad things happen to good people? So the fact that he didn't even try to answer it, I don't know if it was sloppy writing. I don't know if there was a reason for it that we'll discover out later. I just was left like, what kind of priest to be is this? And one of the most common questions, besides maybe, is there a God? He couldn't even kind of start giving her any type of maybe answer to, or pointing her in a direction to, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. So yeah, that's really what I thought of the show. So I did not see episode 3, and obviously I will not be seeing episode 3 because I did not like this show at all. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad y'all liked it.
Well, can I? You were saying a few things, and I know we usually don't jump in on some stuff with people when we're all talking, but sometimes I wish we would do that.
No, I want you to, please.
Sometimes I let you talk, and like, what was it that was bothered that you said that I was like, oh my gosh. One of the things I did want to ask, because Corey mentioned about, or Brian, one of you mentioned about night terrors and stuff like that. Did any of y'all experience those as a child?
Yeah, so I was going to say that, Brian, that is actually a common thing. And I know this because I've done research on it because I have had those as well, where I am paralyzed. Like I have to force myself to be able to get myself to move. Like I cannot move. And I'm like, so I've totally had those before. And yes, that is something that people do have. And can
I add something too?
Sure.
Do you know what it's called though? I mean, what do y'all call it? Not the technical scientific version, but what is it called colloquially, kind of a thing?
No, I don't know. I just feel like I'm paralyzed. I have it called
witch riding you.
Oh no, I've never heard that. That's a Bama thing.
Maybe it's like a witch riding you.
No, I've never heard.
Cut out. You cut out. I couldn't hear.
Riding you.
Oh.
That's awesome. And I was like, okay, and I did like experience that as a child. I used to experience that a lot, that it was enough that I thought sleeping on my back caused it. And for like most until I got to high school, I would never start sleeping on my back because I thought I would wake up and I would do enough when I was a kid that I would do that. But
and it can take the place of objects too. So people think it's just a human form, when the reality is some people see it on certain objects or certain things that attribute to their memories. So if somebody hurt you or beat you or did something with a certain thing, if that object also can, I get they put a demon in or a human form, but I also know that, they can turn into different people, especially when you go into schizophrenia, can actually see different things move. So.
Well, and when you mentioned about you weren't scared of the demon. Okay, thank you. The demon there is because when you say, because how he sounded and what he was doing, but to me, that's why I like this show, is because you're not really sure, okay, is it really something evil, or is it something that's in her mind? Because even when he was peeing in the corner, like, oh my gosh, and she goes over there and there is water, and it's like, it's raining outside and my window's partially up, and that to me is what makes it, we're never sure exactly what is it really something or an object, I'm not sure, is that in episode 2 or 3 when her and her daughters are seeing the video? Which one is
2,
that?
when they're watching the movie?
Yeah. When they watch the movie, see because they actually see him in a movie, and that's coming in. She said, oh, that's what's coming into my dream, is that, and it's not real demon. So I think that is what makes it, to me, creepier. And I mean, it's not scary like a scary movie, but it's something I'm always thinking, is that something that's really going on, or is it just really in their minds?
So I think, so to your point, in terms of whether it was going on in her mind, I thought, it was interesting to see how she taped the little stay into the ceiling and stuff. But honestly, and I don't know, Corey, if you were in the room when I was watching this, but when he peed in the corner, I was like, it's raining. I bet she's going to go over there. It's going to look wet because he went over by a window. And so when I went over there and showed that, I was like, yeah, I saw that. To me, I guess I felt like when I think demon and evil and related to like church, and we're getting this is the real stuff right here. I don't expect the demons to be silly and talking and doing stuff like this. That's so, it's just for me.
It's because we're never, and I'm at least initially, we're not really sure what that is. And is it really demon devil kind of a thing? Is it really that? We're never really sure when we're watching that. And that's, to me, that's what makes it a good show. It's like, I have to think, is it something going on in her head? And I think what you mentioned in the Corey, you mentioned about how the intro when it starts and everything, but also I think in like when they show like evil and their little still thing, it shows like a picture of her and like an apple, and it shows temptation.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that temptation or really corruption, that's a theme going into both seasons, really. And I saw the trope with the priest and her, and it's like, really, we don't need that. That's not necessary. I mean, she has a husband out there somewhere. Yes, she's but overall, I mean, to me, it still was a good show to me. But I think what gets me on it is the fact that I am never truly sure, is it delusions in someone's head? Is it something explained, or is it something evil? And that's why a lot of it, more levity about that demon that she sees. And I think the reason, like you said, why did that suddenly appear? I think it's because it's trying to get her off going the path she's going. So, I think the whole reason is because she's joining that group. And if you keep watching it, they all have some sort of temptation or something to try to get them off of what they're doing, off this journey or whatever.
So I think it's interesting because the devil character, what you're saying, I took complete opposite of it. So when you're saying, hey, so you never know because of that, whether she's dreaming or whether it's real, I immediately went, oh, this isn't real because it's silly. To me, it actually changed the whole projection of the show because it's no longer something I can take as serious because it's, oh, okay, so now we got demons peeing in corners and cracking jokes. I mean, is this the kind of show this is going to be? So for me, it did the exact opposite. I was like, oh, this isn't real. So that's why I was like, oh, that pee, I bet you because it's raining outside, she's going to get there and be like, oh, was it real? I don't know. And so that's kind of really what happened. But I just think I think it comes down to just like anything, like we all watch stuff and we all get, our own views and takes on it. But for me, and because I read a lot of stuff like this is not what I expect from somebody who I think is really going through this or maybe is really being visited by a demon. You already just kind of lost me.
But to me, and I guess I come in from a different perspective. I mean, that's your perspective. But for me I don't think when it comes to evil and everything, like it says black and white on it, I don't think that. I really don't think that it's for certain, oh, I know we see the devil when it's coming. It's like, no, you don't. Because if that was the case, we would all be like, oh, I'm going to turn away. I'm going to do this. Usually we don't see that kind of stuff when it's coming toward us. And I'm not saying specifically a demon, but a lot of times for evil, it says what? Straight is the way, narrow the gates. I mean, I think that's different than you're talking to actual visit from a thing. Like, but I think evil comes in all different kinds of shapes and forms. So it would never be scary to her because she even said, I don't believe in this. And so
but it was scary to her.
Yeah, it was scary, but she never really truly thought it was a demon. She's like, something's going on with my psychosis. Is not really a demon, it's something else. And so she tried to logically figure out what's going on. And I think, so she took it in that direction. She didn't think, if I dreamed of that, I'd be like, I need to get my life right, soon as I dreamed that.
Okay, no, I wouldn't have thought that at all. Like, I wouldn't be like,
and
what did I eat? That would be the first thought that came. And it's so funny that we're talking about this.
That's what makes this show so good.
Yeah, I don't think it makes it good, though, because here's the thing. As you just talked and everybody's talking about this, it just occurred to me, why didn't she remember that this is from a movie she watched a couple weeks ago? Again,
she doesn't. I think that's part of the psychosis thing. Like, okay, why am I dreaming of it? And then my daughter started dreaming of it. Something's going on. And
no, y'all would have remembered y'all watched this in a movie. This is silly.
No, she didn't say she watched it. She was saying she may have been observing. It's in the background. There are things that you can pick up that I'm not really watching this, but my kids were watching it and I kept walking back and forth and it got into my psychosis. I, got into there. So I think that really that's what happened. I don't think she saw the whole movie. Like you can have something flashes like, oh gosh, I think I might have seen that somewhere. And it wasn't you really doing it. It was just something that was happening around you. You're like, oh, but I feel
like that's you completing the story and that's fine. but that is not what I saw. So that I just didn't
saw
go there
wrong.
with
No,
the
I'm
story.
Well,
That's just not.
I think
That's
there's
just
more
not
to
where I went
that.
with the story.
Yeah, I think
Like
there's more to that in episode 3, honestly. The film
yeah, and so
aspect
I didn't see
debunking
that.
it. But there's one thing about the dream that I thought, and I do think that they got to that conclusion kind of fast in the arc of the story of debunking it, at least to that point in the 3rd episode. But the because I have a feeling that character keeps coming back, but the aspect of that being a very silly manifestation of evil, she's seeing him in her dreams. There might be some scenes where she thinks she's actually seeing him in real life, and so that character, the demon character, is breaking out of just being present in the dream too. But there's a whole other demon in the story that we have that also carries through the Leland Townsend character. And that, I think, he embodies what, Stacey, you're saying, where you don't see it coming. You don't see evil coming when it's just introducing, or doesn't look like I'm a demon, or I'm a baby doll crying blood, or some things like that. It's just a regular looking person, kind of looks like me.
Well, I'll say I saw it coming, only because he's played in other roles where he's.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's kind of known for that, but I agree with you, Brian. Like that to me is the form of evil that I think we need to really be more worried about. And like you said, with Stacey saying that it comes in all forms and you may not see it. That I get, but just like in the first 2 episodes, I think if they had kept that whole demon out of her bed and stuff, I may have felt differently about it. But when we went there, and he's talking about her C-section and taking off her panties, I'm like, what is this? What am I watching here?
But I think go ahead, keep going.
No, I'm good.
I was just saying, I think that's probably just there to throw you off. Mm-hmm. I mean, because it is one of those things where, like, when you look at that, at least from my perspective, when I saw the demon, I was like, oh my God. Because remember, I told you in the beginning, they start talking about possession. I was like, this is not going to be a show for me because I'm not really into possession. And so when I see the demon, I'm like, okay, this is really going to be scary and creepy. And so I'm like, I don't really know how to feel about this. And I didn't know what network this was on. I didn't know how far they were going to go. And so when he breaks into the comedy part of it, I'm like, okay, this is not how I think it's going to be. What I'm seeing in front of me is not really what I think I'm going to get from this show. You have to dig deeper and find out who or what the true evil really is. And it's hidden behind another door. It's hidden behind Leland and this other character that we're going to start to see evolve. And I think that's the whole point, is to throw you off. When you think you're expecting one thing, you end up getting something else. And that's what I think that's what I enjoyed about it.
And I totally agree with you on that. So what happens is you watch it like, I don't know, this ain't my thing, whatever. And you're like, oh, okay, it's not what I thought I was. I watch it like, oh yeah, I love me some CSI type of stuff. Because I told you before I watched it, I was like, this is what it's about. And I think I'm going to like it. Yes. And then, so I'm thinking, okay, yeah. I mean, seriously, this is exactly how it went. Then I see that. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I know.
Going to be about? And I lost interest. Like, so I think that's a risk you take, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it works for some people and it just doesn't work for others. And that's all shows. So it's not a big deal. But for me, it changed the trajectory.
Yeah. And I think that's why I think why we decided when we were going to start looking at shows too, we would do 1 or 2 episodes, more than just the 1 episode, to kind of give it a little bit of a fighting chance. Yep. When we're talking about the dreams, and the other thing I wanted to say was she actually had a lot of skills within the dream of being able to recognize that she was dreaming and control it, and to put the note, like you said, put the note on the ceiling to wake up. and those are really advanced kind of ways to control what's going on when you're asleep. And the and I and it makes sense to me that that her character might have that being in her field.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's,
you think it's happened before?
Well, maybe. So, but yeah. So there's the thing is that maybe it's too advanced for the story at this point for where we know.
Mm-hmm.
But that also made me think that maybe, and I don't know if this is even me just reading more into it or hoping, putting, hopes into this is where it goes. But the ridiculousness of the demon, if you remember the scenes in one of the Harry Potter films where the kids are being asked to face their fears out of this wardrobe, the things they're afraid of most come out, and they have to turn it into something absolutely ridiculous. And so maybe it would be interesting if that's kind of the thought behind those scenes of the demon just trying to crack jokes and things. It's actually her trying to control the dream and change the narrative while it's happening. But I don't think that's probably the case here, because for the episodic storytelling value of that happening, they would have actually had to point that out, that's what she was doing. And so I could say, well, they could explain away the campiness of that, but they didn't. And so I think that might have been able to explain it away. But at this point, if we're recommending to watch the series and go for this ride, maybe there is some explanation. Maybe the two characters, the demon and Leland, are the same person or the same demon, if there is really a demon at work here too. So there's I think that there's a lot more story that we haven't seen in up through episode 2 and 3. And I think I'm ready for it. So I think I'm going to continue. And I think if I was comparing this to the other episodic kind of things like X-Files, I'm not right there with X-Files yet. Like I really like X-Files a lot. I would say X-Files is a 4 or 5. I wouldn't say this is the same caliber just yet with just seeing the 3 episodes. Yeah, so if I'm going to rate, I'm going to say, kind of like the 3.5 would be
Stacy rolled her eyes.
For y'all, I have a question for you guys. So about the priest, because this was something that I just felt like stood out to me. And like I was saying in the thing, he didn't feel very priestly. I know he's pre-priest. I just felt like there were some times where I expected him to say things or do, and he just left it. Like, did y'all not feel like when she sounds like she's pretty much like, why should I believe in God? Like, my daughter is, and he's just like, I don't have the answers for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's bad research. Like when you have a medical show, you have doctors helping the script writers. Wouldn't you have, in a show like this, wouldn't they absolutely have clergy and church people making advisements and helping people come up with words like that? So regular scriptwriter isn't necessarily going to come up with the best thing to say.
Has anybody seen Midnight Mass?
Yes.
Because if you watch that show, and they don't have nothing to do with each other really, but obviously Midnight Mass is very centered around religion. If you listen to it is very convincing, even though it's a movie or a TV show, very convincing. And it lines up with what you, I guess, real world expect to hear or whatever. So to your point, Brian, I feel like they definitely had somebody on tap to say, hey, this is what we would expect the priest to be saying. This is what it would look like. Whereas to this, I just, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, but at Midnight Mass, I mean, technically speaking, the person who's playing the priest has been a priest for a gazillion years, because if you know the story, but I mean, we know that he has a lot of priestly experience. If you keep watching Evil, though, I mean, he is a priest in training, but they talk about his history and about how he got there. And to me, I think he could have probably said more about why you should believe or whatever, but he's not evangelical, priest, like, come to the Lord, because the Lord, I think he's trying to be more of a guiding person and guide you to something instead of telling you what this is what you should do.
Right. And so, I think that's what he could have done. Because obviously I don't think he can tell, like, I don't think that's the place anyway of any of them, is to be like, this is what you have to do, here's the recipe. But I felt like none of us are ministers, but I would not have answered that question the way he did. And so I was like, that's all I'm getting.
What exactly did he say again? I can't remember.
He said he doesn't have the answers.
Yeah.
Why he didn't leave it. Of why bad things happen.
Yeah, why her daughter, I don't remember if she had a heart, something was wrong with her.
Yeah,
why
she's got a condition.
Yeah. And he just said he didn't have the answers. And I'm not asking him to have the answer and figure it out. But to your point, Stacey, some guidance, some hint of, like, but he did say I think he said he would pray for her.
Person who's already said they're atheists, what would you say to that person?
Obviously, if I am a priest in practice, who obviously, if I see somebody who said they're an atheist, who is obviously crying out for help, because that's what she was doing, or we wouldn't have been having this conversation, then I would have definitely tried to give her some guidance to push her in that direction. Do I think I'm converting her overnight? Absolutely not. But to not say anything, I did nothing. All I did was basically what he did to me was he just was like, okay, yes, good thing you're atheist. That makes sense for you.
Well, I agree, Dana. I think even a priest in training, he's in 2 years of training or seminary or whatever, that they'd probably cover that in the first year. That would be like a real part of basic training. And maybe he's actually more of an Episcopalian, where it's like Catholic light is what they're called. We're called. I'm an Episcopalian. I was raised Episcopalian, and you have all of the pomp and everything of the Catholic Church, but you kind of embraced science and real, modern explanations for things, and medicine, and things like that. It seems like you embrace realism and all this stuff. Not everything is miracles and saints and all that stuff. So
on the first episode, I'm gonna need him to make sure he get consent before he start walking in somebody's crib, because he busted up in there, and I was like, hold up, brother. Can she make sure you good to walk in? He just stepped in. Like, I was like, just something I noticed. I mean,
maybe the episodes need to be longer, Jeremy, so he can knock and he can do some explanations. They just not
like if I showed up at Corey's and Dana's, I ain't just gonna walk in the crib. I'm gonna knock. I'm gonna
but our door would have been locked.
Call first, lady.
Thank you, Corey. If you don't call first, you ain't getting in the crib. I'm just saying. He just walked in there. I'm like, damn, sis, damn, Christy, you just gonna let him? Okay.
They're
okay. So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there are all kinds of problems with her house. I think in the third episode, she actually, when people are knocking on the door, pounding on the door or something, she just unlocks the door and opens it up.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a peephole. We were talking about that too. Like, what's the deal?
Like, wait a minute, you better be dreaming. This better be. I don't think we
and they're underneath the whatever, the subway or whatever the system, the rail.
Oh yeah, the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, so there's a lot of stuff going on here with these first 2 episodes. It seems like some people got a lot of things out of it and some people did not have enough. Do you feel like the first 2 episodes are enough for you to keep watching or for you to recommend it to other people? So let's go ahead and get into our ratings and what we thought about the first 2 episodes and whether you would continue watching. I will say that I would give it a 4.5 stars for the first 2 episodes. And this is one of the first few shows that I've seen where I was hooked after the first and half of the second episode, where I was like, I gotta watch the rest of this show. So I will definitely recommend it. I will continue to watch it. If you're a fan of CSI or that
look
type
elsewhere. No.
No.
What'd you say?
That's why you're not on the screen.
I feel like if you're a fan of CSI or that type of genre, this could probably squeeze right in there. I think it probably, if you're a fan of drag out horror, you need all this kind of stuff, then maybe this is not for you. But that's just my opinion. So I give it 4.5 stars.
Awesome.
Dana?
Okay, well, I'll go.
Okay. Well, let's go, Dana.
I'll go. So this is gonna be simple. So considering I only watched the first 2 episodes and hearing from people who watched more how you guys seem to enjoy it, I would actually put this on the recommend to watch list. So like, because apparently people do like the show and it's good. It just may not have been my cup of tea. Now, in terms of my rating, I would give it a 2, but I would give it a 2 again, but say, hey, watch several episodes to see how you feel. Because this is not something that I would say is a knockdown drag out. Oh my God, don't ever watch this. Why did they even make it at all? I just did not find it to be my cup of tea. So a lot of people apparently like it. So watch it. Just don't say I told you to do it.
Yeah, there is issues, as everyone on the call has noted. Definitely, like Corey mentioned, it is not a horror, scary Bloomhouse. I'm gonna go in and leave, kind of anxious about anything. None of that at all. Yeah, it's good. I know what Dana was saying about kind of the demon piece and sort of the CSI and not feeling that. So I do understand her perspective, because I was feeling some of that too. But I did like it. To answer Corey's question of what I recommend, I would definitely recommend it. As Stacy noted, the 3rd episode is where you get your more kind of, where your money, where your mouth is, in terms of where I think the whole thriller series is going. But if you watch the first 2, I think that's fine too. But obviously, if you can, watch 3. But it was pretty solid, but there are issues. It is not perfect. Nowhere near a 5 to me, but there are some good qualities in it. But nowhere near a 5 perfect. They could have did no less better. Yeah, there were some issues that we've noted. So I think that's a good thing. I think hopefully if they come out with the season 3, hopefully they can clean up some of that. So yeah. I defer to
Stacy can. Yeah, I'll go so Stacy can wrap it up. I'm at 3.5. I do recommend it. It's we've definitely seen a lot worse. So and for a network show for CBS, it's pretty well made. I mean, the effects and editing and it looks good. So and it's got a really good cast. So I'm not like cringing when one particular character comes on screen. I think everybody is doing really, really well. So I think it's feeling like a really solid series for me. I'm done. That's good.
Okay. And for me, and it's hard for me to give it because I've seen both seasons now. And so if I go by just the first 2 to 3 episodes, I would say, my whole score would be 4.5, 5, because I did rewatch those again when I said, oh, let's see these. And I started to rewatch them and I still enjoyed them. There's some of the tropes that I don't like, and that's in there, and I won't be mentioning those, but there are certain things in there I don't really care much for. So that's why I don't want to say 5, because I've seen the whole season, and I've seen that, but every episode I've really enjoyed. There's some have been like, maybe not as much, but I mean, when I say I like horror and all that, I don't like the slasher kind of the stuff that Jeremy and Dana probably appreciates. Things like this stay with me longer. It's the things that I have to think about. And when you see, and to me, there's a whole lot more, because it's a season and because it's a show, we get more character development, and we get the histories of those main characters, and why they come to this part, and some of their background. And it's just, when I see that and how those characters have changed or continue to change, it's just, to me, just a really good show. And I know I'm probably going back to talking about the show, but I enjoy it. So I'm gonna say 4.5, 5. There's a few things I didn't like. I'll say 4.5. I every time it comes on, and if you watch season 1 and season 2, I think season 2, I'm not sure when they filmed that. Maybe it was partly during COVID. Maybe they change how they kind of do it in the beginning. They do change it. And I even kind of like it a little bit better in season 2, and how they change it, the beginning of it. And I don't want to, say how they change but when you first come into it, how they set up each episode, they do change that. So that format does change. Overall, I mean, it has like the symbolism of it too. I'm going back to talking about it. But to me, like, when those 3 characters, and after a while, it's like, are they like, in a way, representing the Trinity? Because I mean, David is doing the spiritual God, the Father, and to me, Ben's character would be like son. He's like the physical aspect. Like, okay, I'm doing the mechanical, physical stuff of what's causing this, and Chris is like Holy Ghost, because she's doing the spiritual side of it or mental side of it. And you see their characters change, and about it's what keeps me is the temptation and that whole influence, and what is it doing to them as you go across, as it goes across the episode, and one season to season 2, is their work and how it's trying to influence them to take a darker path. So I've enjoyed the show, and hopefully whoever else decides to watch it, from my review, please do, and please comment. And my friend Jenny, who I used to work with, who I love, who I introduced this show, who loves it too, please, Jenny, watch and comment.
Okay. So that is our review of Evil, the first 2 episodes of season 1. Again, like Stacey said, if you've seen it and you enjoyed it, please, or didn't enjoy it, leave a comment down below. And we will be back next week with a whole nother episode of some more TV shows in the spooky genre that we hope we will find spooky. I will say also that if you want something really scary, it has really good character development, and I know we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but you want something on the other side, watch Lovecraft Country, even though it's not having a season 2. That will definitely give you all the things that you need for that horror genre. Watch that. But Evil was really good. I really enjoyed it. So with that being said, we will see you guys next time.